I thought the worst day of my life was finding out my wife was cheating on me, but then came the phone call that changed everything. Hey everyone, I've been a silent member here for quite some time, just reading and learning from others' stories. But today, I need to finally speak up. I'm 39 now and I never imagined I'd be writing something like this. Yet here I am, laying my life bare because I don't know where else to turn. My wife, let's call her Jessica, she's 37, and I have been married for 14 years. Up until not too long ago, I really believed we were in a good place. We have a daughter, Lily, who just turned 15 and started high school this fall. From the outside, everything probably looked pretty normal. And honestly, for a while, I convinced myself it was. Jessica's always had this sharp way with words. She's quick on her feet, clever, and she keeps her cool no matter what's thrown at her. I always looked up to that. I'm not the jealous kind of guy. I never hovered, never questioned her friendships, especially with men. I just figured if there's no trust, then what's the point of being together at all? That was always my mindset. I trusted her completely. But over the past few months, something started to shift. It's hard to describe, just this sense of something being off. Like she was there but not really present anymore. I tried to brush it off, blamed it on all the changes happening around us. Lily starting high school, Jessica getting a new gig as a substitute teacher at Lily's school, and me putting in long hours at work. Life gets busy, I told myself. This is just a phase. Things will even out. But the truth is, I had no clue what was really going on behind the scenes. I've never been the kind of husband who snoops through his wife's messages or tries to monitor her every move. That's just not who I am. But sometimes the signs are so clear they practically smack you in the face. It started with the little things. Jessica started getting a lot more texts, and not just during the day but even when we were sitting down to dinner as a family. She'd glance at her phone, smile faintly, and then excuse herself to take the message somewhere private. At first I didn't think twice. We all have friends, co-workers, people who reach out for this or that. When I asked about it, she told me it was just folks from the school texting about schedules and coverage. I took her word for it. I trusted her. Then one evening, Lily started talking about her favorite teacher at school, a guy named Mr. Thompson. He's in his early 40s, teaches English, I think. She said he was funny, relatable, made the class actually want to learn. Seemed like a cool teacher, nothing out of the ordinary. But what stuck with me was how Jessica reacted whenever his name came up. Her face would tense just slightly, like she wasn't expecting it. Sometimes she'd change the topic entirely or mention being really tired and head to bed early. At the time, I chalked it up to coincidence. I didn't want to overthink it. Jessica was always good at putting me at ease. The moment everything shifted happened about a month ago. Lily had a weekend field trip through school, and Jessica signed up to be one of the parent chaperones. I stayed back looking forward to a quiet house for a bit. A few hours into the trip, Lily called me, said she wasn't feeling great and asked if I could come pick her up early. Of course I said yes. I assumed Jessica would be there waiting with her, ready to come home too. But when I pulled up to the school, there was Lily standing outside by herself. "Where's your mom?" I asked, feeling this slow, creeping dread settle into my gut. "She left. Said she had something important to take care of," Lily said like it was nothing. My heart dropped. That wasn't like Jessica. She always put Lily first no matter what. For her to just leave mid-trip? It didn't sit right with me. When we got back home, the house was empty. She didn't walk through the door until hours later. When I asked her about it, she told me she'd completely forgotten about a last-minute meeting and had to rush out unexpectedly. I wanted so badly to believe her. I looked into her eyes and searched for the woman I thought I knew. But something inside me stirred. Things weren't lining up, and no matter how much I tried to silence the doubts, they just kept getting louder. Still, I held back. I didn't want to look like the paranoid husband digging for things that might not be there. But deep down I knew. Something had changed. Something was wrong. That night, Jessica climbed into bed beside me like nothing was wrong. She kissed me goodnight, whispered something about being tired, and turned over. Meanwhile, I just stared at the ceiling, heart pounding, trying to piece everything together. The quiet of the room felt heavy. My mind kept circling back to the little things, her disappearing acts, how she always seemed to have a reason ready on the tip of her tongue, how distant she'd become without any real explanation. The next morning, I did something I never thought I'd do. While she was in the shower, I reached for her phone. I'm not proud of that. I hate that I even felt driven to do it. But my instincts were screaming and I couldn't ignore them any longer. And there it was. A message from Mr. Thompson, the teacher Lily had talked about so much. It wasn't anything outright scandalous, but it was off. They had been texting late at night, well past the time most coworkers would reach out. His latest message asked her what she was up to that weekend, and she responded with this kind of warmth and familiarity that made my stomach turn. It didn't read like two colleagues coordinating about school events. It read like two people who were far too comfortable with each other. When Jessica came downstairs, dressed for the day like it was any other morning, I couldn't hold it in anymore. I looked her in the eyes and asked, "What's really going on between you and Mr. Thompson?" For just a second, her face shifted, like she didn't expect the question. But then she snapped back into her usual calm, composed self. She didn't even blink. "What are you talking about?" she said smoothly. "He's just a coworker. We've been talking more because of Lily's classes and some scheduling stuff." She said it so effortlessly, like she'd rehearsed it. Her voice was relaxed, steady, even a little amused. I almost doubted myself for bringing it up. "Then why are you texting him at midnight?" I asked, trying to keep my voice even though I felt anything but. Jessica let out a soft laugh and raised an eyebrow like I'd just told her a ridiculous joke. "Seriously? You're jealous? That's all it is. We've just been venting about work. Teaching's been a lot lately. You know that." And in that moment, I didn't know what to say. She made it all sound so harmless, so normal. And part of me wanted to accept that, to trust her, to go back to believing everything was okay. But deep down, something felt off, like she was trying too hard to make me feel like the unreasonable one. I sat there in silence, watching the woman I married spin her version of the story, and for the first time, I wasn't sure if I believed her. That conversation haunted me. Even though Jessica had deflected it so effortlessly, her words stuck with me like a splinter I couldn't get rid of. I kept turning it over in my mind, trying to convince myself I was overthinking it. But no matter how I tried, the doubt didn't go away, it only grew louder. And that's the strange part. I'm not someone who second-guesses the people I love. I've always believed that trust is the bedrock of any real relationship, and Jessica and I had built ours on that foundation, or so I thought. But suddenly, everything felt uncertain. Like the truth had quietly shifted when I wasn't looking, and I was standing on shaky ground. I started questioning myself more than her. Maybe I was being too sensitive. Maybe I was seeing something that wasn't there. Jessica had always been great at talking me down, helping me feel secure. She'd tell me about her day, laughing at funny little moments from school, talking about the kids and the staff like nothing had changed. And I wanted to believe her. I wanted to believe we were still us. But deep down, I felt like I was living in a play where everyone else knew the script except me. I couldn't stop picturing her texting him after midnight, slipping out of conversations to respond to messages, walking around with secrets I wasn't supposed to see. And the worst part? She never once followed up after our talk. No explanation, no apology, not even an acknowledgement that it had happened. It was like she'd already moved on while I was still stuck in that moment. She kept going about her days like normal, teaching, coming home, chatting like always, smiling like everything was fine. And for a while, I almost let myself get pulled back into the routine. I told myself I was imagining things, that I needed to stop acting paranoid, that I should just let it go. But then came the night that changed everything. Jessica had gone to bed early. I couldn't sleep, so I stayed downstairs in the kitchen, just aimlessly scrolling through Facebook. I wasn't looking for anything. But that's when I saw it, a photo someone had tagged her in. She was at a bar, drink in hand, standing next to a group of people. The timestamp caught my eye right away. It was from the same night she told me she had to rush off to a meeting during Lily's school trip. And right there in the photo next to her was Mr. Thompson. They weren't doing anything outright inappropriate, but the way they were standing, close, relaxed, laughing like they shared something no one else was in on, it hit me like a punch in the gut. That moment, that was when it all unraveled. The excuses, the quiet retreats to answer texts, the missing time. All of it clicked into place. I had been trying so hard to hold on to something real, but it turns out I'd been holding on to shadows. I didn't get a wink of sleep that night. That picture haunted me, Jessica standing next to Mr. Thompson, too close for comfort, sharing a look that wasn't just friendly. It didn't scream work function. It felt personal, intimate. My gut had been trying to tell me something for weeks, and now it was screaming at me. Every excuse I'd accepted, every doubt I'd pushed down, it all came rushing back with that one image. By morning, I was already at the kitchen table, coffee in hand, going over everything I wanted to say. I knew I had to confront her, really confront her. This time I had more than just a hunch. I had something real. When I heard her footsteps on the stairs, my chest tightened. She walked in, gave me that same casual smile like nothing had changed. "Morning," she said, grabbing a mug and heading to the coffee pot. I couldn't even pretend. "We need to talk." Her smile faded slightly. She turned to look at me, eyebrows raised. Talk about what? Without a word, I picked up my phone and slid it across the table. The screen showed the photo, her at the bar next to Mr. Thompson. For just a second her face changed. A flicker of something, shock, maybe guilt, crossed her features. But she recovered fast, letting out a small, dry laugh. Seriously? That's from the night out after the field trip. I told you we were meeting up for drinks. I shook my head slowly. No, Jessica. You said you had a meeting. You never mentioned going out for drinks. And you definitely didn't mention being out that late. She paused, her hand tightening around her coffee mug. Okay, fine, I didn't give you every detail. But it was harmless. Just a group of teachers unwinding. Are you really blowing this up over a photo? I leaned forward, trying to stay calm. It's not just the photo. It's everything. The late texts, the way you hide your phone, how you brush me off whenever I ask. You've been texting this guy at midnight. That's not normal coworker behavior. She scoffed, setting her cup down a little too hard. You're seriously making this into some conspiracy? I didn't lie, I just didn't feel like having this exact conversation. You're getting jealous over nothing. Her words stung, but I stood my ground. It's not jealousy. It's the fact that you didn't tell me. You've been distant. You left Lily at school to be with him and you lied to me about it. Can you honestly say nothing's going on? She looked at me for a long moment. Then she gave a short, humorless laugh and crossed her arms. You really don't trust me, do you? After all these years? I got to my feet, my voice low but steady. I used to. But now I'm not so sure. Something's changed, Jessica. And I don't think I'm imagining it. She exhaled sharply and turned away. Believe what you want. I'm done trying to convince you. And with that, she walked out of the kitchen, leaving me there, completely shattered. I stood alone, heart racing, staring at the place she'd just been. She had a way of spinning everything around, making it seem like I was the unreasonable one. Like I was the one creating a problem out of thin air. But this time? I couldn't ignore what I felt. I couldn't ignore the truth staring me in the face. I wasn't crazy. I wasn't overreacting. I was watching my marriage slowly fall apart, and she didn't even try to stop it. After Jessica walked out of the kitchen, I just sat there in silence, staring at the space she'd left behind. My coffee had gone cold, but I didn't even notice. The way she shut me down so quickly, how easily she twisted the story to make me feel like the irrational one, it left me in a haze. Her calm confidence made every doubt I had feel small, like maybe I was imagining it all. But deep inside that feeling wouldn't go away. That heavy, sick feeling that something wasn't right. The house was too quiet. Lily had already gone to school, so it was just me and this thick silence wrapping itself around everything. I kept seeing that photo in my head. Jessica standing next to Mr. Thompson, her body language open, her smile too easy, his eyes fixed on her like they shared something private. I kept asking myself, who is this woman? Is this the same person I built a life with? I wanted to believe her, I really did. I wanted to think that maybe I was overreacting, that I was letting insecurity take the wheel. But when I thought about it all, the late-night texts, the vague explanations, the way she'd pulled away from me emotionally, it all painted a different picture. And for the first time in our marriage I felt something I never thought I would, paranoia. I started wondering how long it had been happening. Was this something new, something that started when Lily entered high school and Jessica started working there? Or had this been going on for much longer while I was going about my life, completely oblivious? I even caught myself thinking about hiring a private investigator. That thought alone made me feel like a stranger to myself. I'd always prided myself on being grounded, level-headed. I never imagined I'd be pushed to the point where I felt I needed to spy on my wife just to get the truth. But she kept deflecting, denying, gaslighting, and it was dragging me into places I didn't want to go. That evening when Lily came home, I tried to keep things normal. I smiled, asked about her day, helped with dinner. But every time she mentioned Mr. Thompson, how he made her class fun, how he was her favorite teacher, I felt something twist in my chest. The idea that the same man my daughter respected could be involved with her mother, it made me feel sick. After dinner, I pulled Jessica aside again. I couldn't let it fester. I needed answers. We need to talk, I said quietly, trying to keep my voice steady. I just want the truth, Jess. If there's something going on, please, just be honest with me. She let out a long sigh and rubbed her temples like she was tired of the whole thing. We've already had this conversation, she said sharply. I don't know what else to say. You're making this into something it's not. I looked at her, my voice softer this time, almost pleading. But why do I feel like I don't even know you anymore? I'm not trying to attack you. I'm your husband. I deserve to know what's really going on. That's when she looked at me differently, colder, more distant than I'd ever seen her. "You want the truth?" she said, her tone flat. "There is nothing going on. But if you keep pressing like this, if you keep accusing me of something that isn't real, you're going to destroy what we have. You'll push me away completely. Is that what you want?" Her words hit me like a punch to the chest. It wasn't just denial anymore. It was a warning. "Keep digging and I'll leave." That's what she was saying. And that's when the panic started to rise. I felt boxed in, trapped between two impossible choices. If I stopped asking questions, I'd be living with doubt for the rest of my life. But if I kept searching for the truth, I might lose her for good. And for the first time, I didn't know what terrified me more. That night, the panic didn't let up. It just sat there in my chest like a knot I couldn't loosen, twisting tighter with every passing hour. Jessica's words kept echoing in my mind, "You're going to push me away for good." It was like she'd turned the whole thing around, made me feel like I was the one ruining everything. But the truth? Deep down, I knew I wasn't crazy. I wasn't making this up. Something was happening, and pretending it wasn't would only make me lose more of myself. Over the next few days, I tried to keep things steady, mostly for Lily. I didn't want her caught in the storm. I went through the motions, work, meals, casual conversation, but inside I was breaking. Every time I looked at Jessica, every smile she gave me felt like a lie. She was acting like nothing had happened, like we hadn't just had a fight that ripped a hole through our marriage. She seemed untouched by it all, walking around with the same calm composure, while I was barely holding it together. Then came Friday, the night that shattered everything. We had plans to go out as a family. Nothing fancy, just dinner, something we hadn't done together in a while. Lily was excited about it. I was clinging to the idea that maybe we could have one normal night. Maybe we could sit at the same table and pretend, even just for a little while, that we were still whole. Jessica was supposed to be home by 6 p.m. 6 came and went. No sign of her. I sent a quick text. Nothing. I called, straight to voicemail. I told myself maybe her phone had died. Maybe she was tied up at work. But I could already feel it, that tightening in my chest, that same instinct that had been warning me all along. Lily sat at the kitchen table, scrolling through her phone, glancing at the clock. "Are we still going out?" she asked, trying to sound casual. I didn't have the heart to tell her I didn't know. So I smiled and said, "Maybe Mom got delayed. Let's give it a little more time." By 7:30 I couldn't sit still anymore. My fingers kept checking my phone every few minutes, hoping, somehow, that she'd text back and say she was on her way. But deep down I already knew where she wasn't. She wasn't stuck at work. She wasn't caught in traffic. Then something clicked in my head, location sharing. We'd set it up years ago when I traveled a lot for work. It was meant to give us peace of mind. I hadn't used it in ages. But now, with shaking hands, I pulled up the app. There she was. Her location lit up on the screen. Not at the school. Not anywhere near it. She was at a hotel. The same one I'd seen in that picture with Mr. Thompson. For a moment, everything around me faded out. It was like the floor dropped out from under me. I couldn't breathe, couldn't think. Just stared at that little blinking dot, frozen. She'd been lying. Over and over. And now I had the proof. It wasn't a hunch. It wasn't paranoia. She was cheating, sneaking around with the same man our daughter trusted as her teacher. And I had no idea how long it had been going on. I stood there for a few minutes, not even blinking, just trying to absorb it. My hands were trembling. My heart was thudding so loud it echoed in my ears. Anger flared up, yes, but it was the betrayal that cut the deepest. The sheer disbelief that the person I had shared my life with, built a family with, had been lying to my face. Hiding in plain sight. I grabbed my keys and walked out the door. I didn't have a plan. I didn't know what I was going to say or do. But I couldn't sit in that house any longer, pretending like everything was okay. I needed to see her. To look her in the eye and show her that I knew. Because if she wasn't going to tell me the truth, I'd bring it to her doorstep. I drove like I was in a trance, the world outside the windshield nothing but a blur. My knuckles were white on the steering wheel, gripping it so hard I thought the leather might tear. I didn't even know what I was going to say when I saw her. I just knew I needed to be there. I had to see it with my own eyes. That blinking dot on my phone had flipped a switch in me. And once it flipped, there was no turning back. When I pulled into the hotel parking lot, I parked far from the entrance, hidden between two cars like I was the one sneaking around. My heart was thudding in my chest and my thoughts were spinning faster than I could keep up with. Was I really doing this? Was I about to walk into a hotel and confront my wife with her lover? This felt like something out of a bad TV drama, not my life. But here I was. I sat there for a minute trying to collect myself, but I couldn't. My blood was boiling. My chest felt tight. I didn't even know what room she was in. I just knew she was inside, with him. Mr. Thompson. I finally stepped out of the car and walked into the lobby. The woman at the front desk greeted me with a smile, cheerful and clueless. "Hi there. Can I help you?" she asked. I tried to sound calm, but my voice came out tight. "Yeah. I'm looking for my wife, Jessica Dawson. I think she checked in earlier." She frowned slightly and looked at her screen, typing something in. "I'm sorry, sir, but I can't release any information about our guests without their permission." I nodded, swallowing the lump in my throat. "I just need to know if she's here." She shook her head, firmer this time. "I really can't share that without authorization." I gave a weak thanks and stepped back outside, feeling helpless. Like the walls were closing in. Then I saw her. She stepped out of the elevator, walking across the lobby toward the doors, her hair slightly tousled, her jacket draped over one arm. She was looking down at her phone, not noticing me yet. And right behind her, him. Mr. Thompson. He looked too relaxed. That easy, smug look on his face, like he hadn't just helped dismantle a family. I don't remember deciding to shout. It just came out. "Jessica." Her head snapped up. The moment our eyes met, her expression changed instantly, color drained from her face and she stopped dead in her tracks. She looked shocked. Panicked. Mr. Thompson froze, eyes darting between us. I started walking toward them, my voice shaking with rage. "What the hell is this?" Jessica's mouth opened, but nothing came out. She just stared at me like a kid caught sneaking out after curfew. Thompson looked like he wanted to disappear. "This is why you've been lying to me? This is where you've been." My voice cracked, anger and heartbreak colliding all at once. "While I've been at home taking care of everything, you've been here, with him?" Jessica finally managed to speak, her voice faint and defensive. "It's not what it looks like." I laughed bitterly, loud and sharp. "Not what it looks like. You're walking out of a hotel together. You lied to me about working late. What do you think it looks like?" She glanced at Thompson, then back at me, desperate for something to say. "We just had a drink, okay? That's all." "A drink?" I repeated, disbelief thick in my throat. "At a hotel? After everything you've already lied about? That's what you're going with?" Her voice was trembling now. "I swear it's not what you think. It wasn't like that." Thompson still hadn't said a word. He just stood there, awkward, ashamed, like he finally realized the mess he was in. My hands were shaking. My heart felt like it could explode. But I wasn't going to give her the satisfaction of watching me lose control. I stepped back, overwhelmed by disgust, betrayal, pain so sharp it felt physical. "I don't want to hear another lie," I said, my voice low and tight. "I'm done." I turned and walked away. I didn't wait for a response. I didn't look back. I got in my car and drove, leaving her and whatever was left between us behind in that parking lot. As I pulled out, one thought kept repeating in my head: she was already gone. Long before I showed up at that hotel. The woman I married, the life I thought we had, it had been slipping away and I was too blind to see it. I thought I could drive away and be done. That seeing them together outside the hotel would be enough. But it wasn't. The image of them standing side by side, Jessica's guilt written across her face, and Thompson just silently standing there, offering nothing, it burned into my mind. Something inside me refused to let it go. I didn't want half answers. I didn't want to leave room for more lies. So I circled the block and parked where they wouldn't see me. I sat in the car watching the entrance. It felt wrong, like I'd crossed into some version of myself I didn't recognize, but I couldn't walk away. I needed to know the full truth. The kind of truth that left no doubt. No second chances. A few minutes passed, then I saw them, Jessica and Thompson, not leaving but walking right back into the hotel. No hesitation. No looking over their shoulders. They slipped in through the side door like they knew the drill. And that was it. That was the confirmation I needed. I followed, moving quickly but quietly, keeping a safe distance. They walked through the hallway and into the elevator. I stood near the corner and waited until the doors closed, then rushed to check which floor it stopped on. The number 3 lit up. I didn't hesitate. I took the stairs, my legs moving on pure adrenaline. At the 3rd floor, I cracked the door open and saw them walking down the hallway. Jessica pulled out a keycard and opened the door like she'd done it a dozen times before. They stepped inside and the door clicked shut behind them. That was it. I walked down the hallway, each step louder in my ears than the last, like I could hear my own heartbeat in my feet. I raised my hand and knocked hard. Nothing. Then shuffling. Muffled voices. I knew that voice, hers, panicked. Then his, quieter, unsure. I knocked again, harder. "Open the door, Jessica." A few seconds passed before the lock clicked. The The door creaked open. Jessica stood there and she wasn't composed this time. Her face was pale, eyes wide, hair a mess, like she'd aged 10 years in a minute. She looked caught. No spin. No rehearsed line. Behind her, Thompson stood by the bed, belt unfastened, shirt out, looking like a kid caught doing something he knew he shouldn't. I didn't have to ask a thing. The room answered for them, sheets rumpled, clothes scattered, tension thick in the air. "This is what you call nothing?" I asked, stepping inside. "This is what you meant by just a drink?" Jessica opened her mouth but nothing came out. Her expression collapsed into guilt and panic. She wasn't calm. Not this time. And Thompson? He didn't even speak. Just looked at the carpet like it might somehow swallow him whole. I turned back to her, eyes burning. "How long?" I asked, my voice trembling. "How long have you been lying to me?" She hesitated, her voice barely a whisper. I didn't mean for it to happen. It wasn't supposed to." "Don't," I cut her off. "Don't lie again. Don't give me some half-truth and expect me to accept it. I gave you everything, Jessica. I trusted you. And this is how you repay me." Tears started to fall, but I couldn't feel anything for them anymore. I'd seen those tears before in arguments and excuses. They didn't carry the same weight now. I was there every step of the way. I built a life with you. I raised a daughter with you. And you threw all of that away, for him? She tried to speak, but her voice cracked, and the silence that followed was louder than anything she could have said. Thompson still hadn't moved. I took a breath, one last look at the two of them, and said quietly, "We're done. Whatever this was, whatever we had, it's over. I hope it was worth it." Then I turned and walked out, shutting the door behind me with a final echoing thud that seemed to seal the end of it all. As I walked down the hallway and back to my car, I felt hollow. Numb. Like the life I thought I had slipped through my fingers without me even noticing. But now I knew. Now I saw. It was over. As I drove away from the hotel, every moment from the past hour played on a loop in my head. Jessica's pale face at the door, the rumpled sheets, the lies, and Thompson standing there with nothing to say. I thought I'd reached the breaking point. I thought that was the worst of it. But then my phone buzzed again. I glanced down, expecting another message from her, another lie, another excuse. But this time it wasn't her voice I heard. "Mr. Dawson? This is Officer Reynolds from the local police department. Is this Jessica Dawson's number?" My heart stopped. "Yes," I said, already bracing myself. "What's going on?" "I'm calling to inform you that your wife was involved in a car accident near the hotel. She's been transported to the hospital in critical condition." The words didn't register at first. "What?" I asked, stunned. "What do you mean, critical?" The other vehicle ran a red light. It was a high-speed collision. The paramedics responded quickly, but her condition was serious when she was taken in. "You should head to the hospital right away." I sat there in the car, frozen. Just moments ago, I was storming out of a hotel, ready to erase her from my life. And now, she might not survive the night. I didn't know what to feel. My heart pounded, not with anger now, but with confusion. I hated what she'd done. I hated that she'd lied and betrayed me. But I also couldn't ignore the 14 years we'd shared. I couldn't ignore the fact that this woman who had just shattered my trust might be dying. So I turned the car around and headed for the hospital. The emergency room was a different world. Quiet, sterile, almost too calm. The scent of disinfectant hung in the air. The nurse at the front desk confirmed Jessica was in surgery. "We'll let you know as soon as there's an update." I sat down, still shaking, the adrenaline from the confrontation at the hotel now replaced with something colder. Hours passed. I kept staring at the same spot on the floor, wondering how it had come to this. When the doctor finally came out, he looked worn and serious. "Mr. Dawson?" I stood, barely keeping my balance. "How is she?" "She made it through the surgery. But there were serious injuries, collapsed lung, internal bleeding, multiple fractures. She's stable for now, but recovery will be long and we're not out of the woods yet." The words didn't bring comfort. Just a strange numbness. This was a woman who had betrayed me. And yet, all I could think about was the time we spent building a life, raising our daughter, sharing late nights and early mornings. None of it made sense anymore. "Can I see her?" I asked. The doctor nodded. She looked so small in that hospital bed. Her skin was pale, machines humming softly around her. Bruises bloomed across her arms and face, and there were tubes everywhere. This wasn't the confident, collected woman who used to tell stories at the dinner table. This wasn't the woman who once laughed beside me during our daughter's first school play. She looked like a stranger, and yet so familiar. I stood by her side for a long time, not speaking. Just watching her breathe, chest rising and falling with mechanical help. I didn't even know what I was feeling anymore. Was it relief that she survived? Or grief for everything we'd lost? Then slowly her eyes opened. She blinked, confused. What happened? You were in an accident, I said, my voice dry, hollow. Her eyes moved around the room. Then the realization crept in. A tear slid down her cheek. Her lips trembled. I'm sorry, she whispered. I didn't mean for any of this to happen. I stood there, silent. Her apology was soft, broken. But it didn't erase anything. It didn't undo the months of deception. It didn't erase the image of her with another man. Still, I didn't walk away. Not yet. Because even after everything, a part of me needed to be there. Maybe for her. Maybe for closure. Or maybe for me just to see it through. Months slipped by after the accident, and life settled into a rhythm that felt unfamiliar. Not peaceful, not chaotic, just quiet. Heavy. The fire I'd carried out of that hotel, the rage, the betrayal, it didn't vanish. It just dulled into something colder, something that sat deep in my chest and never quite let go. In the immediate aftermath, everything revolved around Jessica's recovery. The hospital visits, the surgeries, the check-ins with doctors and physical therapists. That became the new routine. Somehow, the affair faded into the background, not because it didn't matter anymore but because survival took over. In those early days, helping her recover felt like the only thing I could do. We had 14 years behind us. I wasn't going to let her suffer alone, even after what she'd done. And Jessica? She changed. The confidence that once covered her lies like armor was gone. In its place was someone quieter, someone almost humbled. She didn't mention Thompson. Didn't try to explain or justify what happened. She didn't even say much at all. She just leaned on me. And somehow I didn't pull away. I told myself I was just doing the right thing. Being decent. But as the weeks turned into months, something else crept in. Acceptance. Not forgiveness. Not healing. Just the reality that we were still under the same roof, still sharing meals, still living like we hadn't been broken. We laughed sometimes. Talked about Lily. Sometimes it almost felt like before. And in those moments I caught myself wondering, have I forgiven her? But forgiveness isn't something that sneaks up on you. It's not quiet. It's not passive. It doesn't slip in through the back door while you're pretending everything's okay. And the truth is, it never really came. Because as Jessica's bruises faded and the limp in her step disappeared, something inside me began stirring again. That same old shadow. Not anger, but something harder to name, a truth I'd buried so deep I almost believed it wasn't there. It all came to a head one night. We were on the couch. The lights were dim. Some movie played in the background, but I wasn't really watching. Jessica rested her head on my shoulder, and for a few seconds, the silence between us felt almost gentle. Then she whispered, "Thank you." I barely heard it. For what? For staying. For helping me. For giving me another chance. The words didn't hit right. They hung in the air, too soft for the weight they carried. I didn't respond. I didn't know how to. Jessica shifted, her eyes searching mine. "You've forgiven me, haven't you?" I couldn't look at her. I stared straight ahead, feeling something in my chest tighten. "I don't know," I said honestly. She blinked, visibly shaken. "What do you mean?" We've been getting through this." I turned to her, finally meeting her eyes. "I've been here. I've been trying. But forgiving you? That's not something I just decide one day. I remember what you did. I remember how you looked me in the eye and lied. I can't unsee that." Jessica pulled back slightly, her face tightening. "But we've been rebuilding. You said we could fix this." "I wanted to believe that," I said. "I really did. But every time I look at you, it's still there. The hotel. The text. The betrayal. I never stopped remembering." She was quiet. Her eyes dropped to the floor, shoulders sinking. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I don't know how to undo it. I thought maybe if I tried hard enough we could get back to what we had." And there it was, what we had. "I don't think that version of us exists anymore," I said. "We're not those people." I stood up. I couldn't sit in that space any longer. The air felt too thick, too full of everything we hadn't said. She looked up at me, eyes wet and tired. "Are you going to leave me?" I paused at the door, my hand resting on the knob. I didn't turn around. "I don't know yet, Jessica. I really don't." Then I stepped out, leaving the door open behind me. Leaving her alone in the dark with the truth we could no longer hide behind. Because some wounds don't heal with time. Some just teach you how deep you can bleed and still keep walking. The next morning, I woke with a weight in my chest that words couldn't touch. I hadn't really slept, just laid there staring at the ceiling, thoughts running wild. The accident, the recovery, the lies, the silence between us, it all piled up into one undeniable truth. No matter how much I wanted to, I couldn't forgive Jessica. Not in the way she needed. That morning, something in me finally settled. It wasn't anger. It wasn't bitterness. It was clarity. I realized I had been holding on out of duty, out of guilt, out of some need to do the right thing. But it wasn't love anymore. And it wasn't fair, to either of us. I got up, poured myself some coffee and sat at the kitchen table waiting for her. This time I wasn't going to stall. I wasn't going to bury the truth. I needed to say it out loud. For her. For me. For Lily. When Jessica finally came down, she looked like she hadn't slept either. Her eyes were swollen, her posture drawn. She saw me at the table and didn't say a word. She just sat across from me, bracing herself. "We need to talk," I said, calm and steady. She gave a small nod. No denial. No resistance. She knew. I looked down at the mug in my hands, then back at her. "I've been thinking a lot. About us. About everything that's happened. These last few months." She nodded again, slower this time. "I could tell," she whispered. "I stayed with you because I couldn't walk away while you were hurt," I said, each word deliberate. "I had to be there for you. I couldn't just disappear." Tears welled in her eyes, but she didn't say anything. "But now that you're healing, now that you're getting stronger, I can't keep living like this. We both know it's not real anymore." Jessica looked up at me, her eyes searching. "You really can't forgive me?" "I thought maybe I could," I said, voice low. "But I was lying to myself. I've tried. God knows I've tried. But when I look at you, I still see it. I see him. I see everything we lost. And I just don't think I can come back from that." She reached for my hand, but I gently pulled away. "So what does that mean?" she asked, her voice trembling. "You're leaving?" I shook my head. "No, I'm not. But it's time you did." Jessica flinched. "You're asking me to go?" "I'm giving us both permission to let go," I said quietly. "I stayed long enough to help you stand again. Now it's time for both of us to move forward." She covered her mouth with her hand, tears slipping through her fingers. "I didn't mean for any of this to happen. I thought we could fix it." "I know," I said softly. "And I wanted to believe that. But we can't. Not really." I waited a moment before continuing. "Lily will stay with me. I've already spoken to the district. I'm transferring her out of that school. She deserves a clean slate too." Jessica's face crumpled. "You're taking her away from me?" "I'm not taking her," I said gently. "You'll always be her mom. You'll still be in her life. But she needs stability right now. She needs something solid." Jessica nodded through tears, unable to speak. "We'll figure out the logistics," I added. "You can stay here for a bit until you get everything sorted. But we both know this isn't our home anymore. Not together." She looked at me, not with anger, but with the quiet understanding that this day had been coming for a long time. "I'll start packing some things," she said, barely audible. I watched her get up and walk out of the room. And I didn't feel triumphant. There was no relief. Just a stillness. The kind that settles after a storm has passed. It wasn't the ending I wanted. But it was the one we needed. The next few days passed like a dream I couldn't quite wake up from. Jessica moved through the house in silence, boxing up her life piece by piece. She didn't speak much and I didn't press her. There was nothing left to say. We weren't fighting anymore. There was no yelling, no pleading, no emotional last stand. Just two people carefully untangling a life they'd spent nearly 15 years building together. The silence said enough. Lily didn't know the whole story. I couldn't bring myself to tell her. All she knew was that her mother would be moving out and that she'd be starting at a new school soon. I told her it was a fresh start for all of us. She nodded like she understood, but I could see it in her eyes. She knew more than she let on. Kids always do. She sensed the fracture even if she didn't know its name. The morning Jessica was set to leave, the house felt hollow. Like something essential had already left. She moved her final box to the doorway, her face expressionless, movements deliberate. She didn't cry. Neither did I. Not then. We met in the living room, two people who used to finish each other's sentences now struggling to share a single moment. "I'm sorry it came to this," she said, voice low and thin. "Truly." I nodded. I didn't trust my voice. I wasn't sure if I had anything left to offer. "I never meant to hurt you," she said, eyes welling with tears. "But I know I did. And I'll carry that with me." I looked at her then, and for just a breath, I remembered the woman I married. I remembered laughter, inside jokes, holidays, hospital rooms, birthday candles. A whole life. But that life was gone now, burned down brick by choices she couldn't take back. I hope you find peace, I said softly. I really do. She nodded, wiped a tear with the back of her hand. Take care of Lily. She's going to need you. I will, I said. That part at least was easy to promise. She lingered at the door, holding the last box like it was heavier than it looked. Maybe one day. I shook my head gently. Don't, I said. Let's not talk about one day. Let's just get through today. A weak smile crossed her lips, sad, resigned, and then she turned and walked out the door. I stood there, staring at the empty space she left behind. There was no dramatic goodbye. No grand finale. Just the quiet closure that comes when two people finally stop pretending. And just like that, it was done. I walked upstairs to find Lily in her room, zipping up her backpack. She looked at me, eyes big and uncertain. Is she gone? She asked. Yeah, I said, kneeling down beside her. It's just us now, kiddo. She leaned into me, wrapping her arms tight around my shoulders. Tighter than she had in months. We're going to be okay, I whispered into her hair. I know, Dad, she said, her voice small but steady. And for the first time in what felt like forever, I didn't just hope it, I believed it.